psychics, ESP, telepathy, clairvoyance, mediums, precognition, fortune-telling, and so much more! In short, people who can see the future, see inside your mind, and talk to the dead. Today, we're going to show you how to pretend to do that.
I see death in your future.
Whose?
Yours.
That's
banana.
stop.
Welcome to Mr. Newton's Neighborhood. I'm your host, Scott Newton. Today we're going to teach you how to fool your friends into thinking you have psychic abilities, and in the process, you'll learn how to spot fake psychics using the same techniques. Now, we're not saying psychics don't exist. We're just showing you how to spot fake ones so you don't get ripped off. And if you're a real psychic, we're going to teach you how to get $1 million. Yes, you could get $1 million. That's not a joke. I'm not being sarcastic. If you have real psychic abilities, you can get $1 million. It's as easy as it sounds, and at the end of the video, we'll tell you how you can do that. As part of this episode, I had actor Tiffany Greathouse pose as a psychic. While we were filming this, we did not talk about death. If any of you watching out there are fake psychics and have pretended to talk to people's deceased loved ones, you are a terrible person and you should feel ashamed of yourself. Now you can use the excuse, oh, but I was just helping them with their grief and helping them move on and cope and bullshit. Why don't you go tell everybody that you've pretended to talk to their loved ones, that you were faking it, but it's okay because you did it to help them with the grieving process. And I'll bet you anything they're going to feel pretty taken advantage of. Now, death aside, you may say, hey, what's the harm in whether a psychic's fake or not? If people are having fun or it gives them an optimistic outlook on life, it's not a big deal. If you don't mind being ripped off, then, whatever. Unless they tell you that that pain you've been having recently is nothing to worry about and it turns out to be cancer. Okay, without further ado, let's meet Tiffany, our fake psychic. So, this is Tiffany. She's our fake psychic today. So how are you feeling about doing this?
A little nervous. I'm an actor, but I've never done this kind of gig, so it's a little nerve-wracking, but I'm excited. It's going to be awesome.
Me too. I'm excited and nervous. I've never pulled one over on anybody. At least, not on camera that was going to be public. What kind of reading are you going to do?
Just a basic, something that would mostly be done over the radio. You don't know the person, just pretty much cold. There's not...
Cold reading?
Yeah, just give it really basic, see if they want to know anything specific, and if they don't, I'll just drive, and we'll see what happens.
Let's have fun.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do this. Cheers. That's when you're really first starting to discover who you are. At that point, he was pretty significant to you. Mm-hmm. You're a better person because of it. It's something that you thought you needed.
Yeah.
But you didn't. You tell it like it is, and people love you for it, and they really respect that. You've settled into somewhere that makes you happy. It's something that you feel good to be there. See, it's the people. It's the people that I'm seeing. That's what you love about it.
Yeah.
It'll be terrifying, but you just, you need to push through it because it's going to be the step you need to take. And he will forgive you. Some things are better left unsaid in certain situations.
Exactly.
I see a lot of intuitive skills just waiting to be grasped.
Yeah.
And maybe they're just being blocked by all that doubt.
It probably is.
I can tell you the really outgoing type that you are going to find a lot of friends there right away. I think you're going to find your career there. You're obviously the perfect type of person to be doing that because you're really loving and you're carefree and you're fun. He's going to be very successful there. He was meant to go there, obviously. I definitely get a lot of strong feelings that everything is happening exactly how it should in your life right now. And I see a wedding in Texas.
I hope so.
Where's the ring? That one's going to be your house.
No.
It'll be yours.
Oh, I love that house.
I see kids in the house with you.
Oh, God.
I see
a bunch of little ones running around.
Was he born in Ecuador?
Yeah, we were actually all born in Ecuador. Okay, now I'm gonna start crying.
No, we'll change the subject. Yeah, let's go lighter. You're being just pushed down here. You need to go out in the world and explore it.
Now it's time to learn how to make people think you're a psychic. Today we are going to use cold reading. Cold reading is basically a set of manipulative techniques and strategies, and a little bit of psychology. There's various different types of psychic readings, and any one of these can be incorporated into the cold reading. Of course, you don't have to use any of them if you don't want. Tarot readings. Of course, this is where you use tarot cards and have them laid out in certain formations, and they're actually a pretty good skeleton to help you get a direction of where to go if you get stumped. And if you forget what they mean, you can just make shit up. People won't even notice. Palmistry. Palm reading is where you use the lines on your hands to tell stuff about people. It's total crap. I'm going to put a link in the description on why it's BS. Crystal ball gazing. This is exactly what it sounds like. You have a stupid crystal ball or some kind of glass or crystal object that you use to make it look like you're getting forces from outside, like it's a device to tune you into the galaxy or the spirits or whatever. Total theatrics, doesn't do anything. Great for atmosphere though. Astrological readings, which is where you use astrology. I'm not going to go into astrology, I'm going to do a separate episode completely on astrology. But like I said, you don't need to use any of these techniques to do your cold reading, but they do make a good crutch and they help a lot with atmosphere. Mediumship. This is mediums, people who can talk to the dead. And I am going to talk about this and show you how it's done after the techniques on cold reading. Now, let's learn cold reading. We actually didn't take the time to set up a really good atmosphere. We used the excuse that we were filming in my studio because it was easier. But generally speaking, you want an atmosphere. At the very least, if you're doing this at a party, you want a separate room from everybody else. But anyway, have fun. Set up a really creative atmosphere. Use candles, use incense. For example, maybe you could do a mix of a new agey setting and a Victorian setting. People love that. I like Victorian stuff. It makes you feel calm and relaxed and like you're kind of part of a different time. Now, you'll want to have a small table and 2 chairs. So you have a small table between you. And of course, next to setting an atmosphere, you have acting and persona. You've got to give a good vibe with your persona and your presence. Make eye contact. Speak softly. Use a calm and sympathetic tone. Smile. But not like that. Another important thing is be open. Don't look all stiff. You don't want to slouch. You want to look relaxed, but not too relaxed. Don't cross anything. Don't fold anything like your arms or your legs. Stay open, but don't keep your legs spread open. You're not a hooker, you're a psychic. Now it's important to listen because they will willingly just give up a bunch of information and not even realize it.
That's great.
Single mom, like 3 kids. We moved here from Ecuador, so it was
Was he born in Ecuador?
Yeah, we were actually all born in Ecuador.
A good thing to tell them is that you're a psychic intuitor. This gives the impression you use intuition and you get vibes and feelings of things. And tell them right from the onset, don't worry, we're not going to be digging up any dark secrets today. Setting up for things going wrong. You are going to have a lot of misses. And as the fake psychic, you're going to fill every single one of those times you got something wrong. Don't sweat it. In a minute, we're going to show you how to avoid those misses and how to turn them into hits. But you want to set up for your misses. Tell them you can't produce 100% accuracy. Nobody's perfect. It's not an exact science. And also tell them it's a team effort.
So the most important thing, just as far as the general reading, is just it's a team effort. I'm not always right. Of course I can't be 100% accurate, but it's a give and take, and so hopefully we can work together to see what we can find out.
That way, it makes them feel like they're part of it, and if there's failings coming, it puts a little burden on them and not just you. Maybe they're not being open enough. Also, at the beginning, ask if they've ever had a reading before.
So I already know that you have had readings before.
And tell them that there's different types of psychics who use different techniques and you've spent years developing yours. That way, if the psychic they've gone to before has a totally different technique or approach and it seems like this is a totally different thing than they're used to, it's okay. There's different ways to do it. Turning it around.
I'm getting a vision of a photo in your wallet or your purse of someone you haven't seen in a while.
I don't think so.
Maybe it's something that you've taken out.
Yeah, I used to carry a picture of my grandpa. But...
If you're wrong about a statement, you could say a variety of different things. Like, It's something from the distant past. Put it on them. Give them a hint that maybe they're just not remembering it. Stay calm. Act like you know what you're talking about. So if you're wrong about something, look at them puzzlingly like, why do you not remember this? Sometimes a pause can be a powerful thing. They'll probably jump in with something. You can also blame it on a bad connection.
I'm not getting blocked. I'm blocking myself. There's something blocking, but...
You know, maybe they need to focus a little harder. I'm getting a bad connection. Are you focusing? Are you feeling in tune? You can even say, well, I'm getting something, but you know what? Maybe we'll come back to that. Think on that. Hot topics. There's, 5 to 7 main topics that you want to stick to. Ambition, travel, love, health, money and career, and education. Extracting information. This is where you get to be a clever new agey interrogator. You can extract information without them even realizing it. So how to do this? Here's some key phrases to use. They're basically leading questions. People will spill information. Okay. Yes. Does this sound right to you? Who might this refer to? Why would that be? How is this significant to you? Is this making sense to you? Can you see why I'm getting this impression? Do you connect with this? Etc., etc. You get the idea, right? The Jargon blitz, or as I like to call it, gobbledygook. This is a trickier one, and if you can do this, people eat this crap up and you'll have them eating out of the palm of your hand. Nom nom poop, nom nom crap. And the best part is, it doesn't have to mean a damn thing. It will make you seem like you're in touch with the cosmic forces or whatever. You'll sound like you have ancient spiritual knowledge and secrets. And it'll make you look like you have an understanding of ancient rituals. And the feeling of ritual makes you seem like an authority and will leave them in awe. Now, I tried to come up with my own example of the Jargon blitz gobbledygook, but it melted my brain. This one was nuts. So I'm going to do a direct quote here from Michael Shermer. First off, you start saying things like, if you're doing astrology, for example, the stars say, or if you're doing tarot cards, the cards are telling me, or if you're just, doing it one-on-one without any props, I am getting or receiving yada 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 yada. You do the Jargon blitz, and then you end with, I don't know if this makes sense to you. And it probably won't. But they will make it make sense, or they will start to find things, or they'll start to push you in a different direction. And even if they don't, they'll be dumbfounded for a second. So here's the example I'm going to read. He writes, interestingly enough, I see we've got the 5 of Swords. Obviously he's using tarot cards. An important card of the Lesser Arcanum, traditionally associated with challenge and struggle in the affairs of the heart. What's intriguing is that in this same conjunction of the spread, we've already had the Hermit, originally one of the lower triad cards, but now generously regarded as indicating not only solitude, but also the accomplishment of personal goals. It's as if the cards are suggesting your personal goals are, at this time, due to take a priority over romance. I don't know if this makes sense to you. So you get the idea. Don't stress, you don't need to use it, but if you do this, you will sound like a mystical badass. So if you want to try something that's not nearly as difficult as that, just try some folk wisdom. The kind of thing that your grandma used to tell you. Forgive and forget. It's better to have loved and lost than to never loved at all. Good things come to those who wait. Or maybe you had a deep grandma. A clock will run without watching it. A small leak will sink a big ship. Beware of a door with too many keys. Or you could get all Buddha on their ass. A pebble and a diamond are the same to a blind man. When you live without, you live within. Horoscope talk, or the Barnum reading. Here's an easy one. The Barnum reading, or as I like to call it, horoscope talk, or horoscope nonsense, is where you basically say something really general that can apply to anybody. This is how horoscopes work, and this is why something that applies to thousands of people who have that same birthday seem so unique and specific to you as an individual.
You're really honest. You're really honest with people. Although sometimes you have a hard time telling people what's really going on in your mind.
So you say basic phrases that apply to everybody, like, people don't always give you full credit, and they sometimes don't see the full potential of your abilities. Or, you're an independent and original thinker, 'cause aren't we all? You've gained much wisdom through experience. And you can also use contradictory terms that apply to pretty much everybody because we all have certain elements of our personality we show from time to time. I'll just give you an example. You're a kind and considerate person, but you hate to admit sometimes you have a little bit of a selfish streak.
And you are the life of the party, but there's so many times when you just want to be alone.
You're often trustworthy and responsible, but there's times when you give in to temptation and slack off and make excuses. You see what I mean? You're something sometimes and the opposite other times, and it applies to pretty much everyone. Also, toward the beginning of the reading, you can use phrases like, you're great at spotting when someone's trying to manipulate you, and you like to see proof of things before you change your mind. This simultaneously strokes their ego, and we all think we don't get fooled easily, but the truth is that we do. And it sets you up for looking trustworthy, because you're telling them, oh, you can see through bullshit, even though you're bullshitting them. And with that, we move on to give them what they want to hear. This is super simple and great for using in future predictions. Basically, tell them things like they're wise and hardworking. Tell them what everybody wants to hear about success. Your financial problems will be solved. And if they're single, they will find true love. If they're in a relationship, everything will work out for the best in the end.
You're gonna find the best job that you've ever imagined. And I see a wedding in Texas.
I hope so. Well, even I'm like, I feel like I need this right now. That's like the next step in my life.
And you do. I see kids in the house with you.
You can even be specific when talking about the future, which brings us to specifics. Now we're about to get some amazing predictions up into his house. And it's surprisingly easy.
I'm seeing that you met through a friend, through mutual friends.
Yeah.
One thing that almost always works is an accident in childhood involving water, or just generally an accident that involves water. Tiffany tried this, and she got a miss.
Did you ever have any sort of accident with water? Or someone close to you?
Not with water. Not that I can think of.
Now, like I said before, sometimes you can just pause and look at them a little confused and wait for them to fill something in.
Yeah, I wonder, maybe I'm just getting a strong...
Yeah.
Also, numbers. Numbers are so vague they can apply to so many things. People will find a number to fit. But a really common and well-tried one is numbers in houses.
I see a house with a number 2 in it.
Number 2.
Does that mean anything to you?
I did live in a 1232 North, 160 West. That's where I grew up my entire life.
Yeah.
I know Warren.
Definitely a very significant house to you.
Oh, yeah.
Now, while we're on the subject of specifics, I'm going to be specific about you right now. Are you ready for this? I see you have expired medicine. I see a box of photos, mostly not in albums. I see a key that doesn't fit anything anymore, you're not sure what it goes to. I'm getting a drawer that doesn't work right. I see out-of-date notes on your fridge and in your phone. See, all that stuff applies to nearly everybody. And you think it seems so simple and obvious, but during the reading it's really not. You can also do things like you have photographs of loved ones in your wallet or your purse, depending on if they're a man or a woman. You can just say their phone. We don't carry pictures like we used to. And since women see psychics more than men, here's a couple specifically for women. You have an earring that's missing a match. You have an item of jewelry from a deceased loved one. Anyway, you get the idea on that one. And now the moment many of you have been waiting for. Mediumship. Do not do this to people, it's mean. As strange as it sounds, convincing someone that you're talking directly to their deceased loved ones is surprisingly easy. And why is it people fall for this? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the psychology behind that for just a second before we give you some techniques. Because this is how fake mediums manipulate us. They understand how we think, they understand that we're grieving, and they know that we're going to just believe it. Hardly anyone goes into a psychic being skeptical, and that's a big part of why they work. In Michael Shermer's book, How We Believe, there's an entire chapter on this. And even the world's top psychic's miss rate is incredibly high, and people still fall for it hook, line, and sinker. Shermer points out that this works for a lot of the same reasons we gamble, except in this case, the occasional return isn't money. It's being able to talk to your loved ones and knowing that they're okay and they still love you. That is a very high return. And fake mediums know this. So just to illustrate this, we're going to take a quick look at the gambling odds of return versus the psychic hit rate. Now, we're going to compare this to one of the top psychics in 1999 when Shermer wrote this, James Van Praagh. He was all over television, all over the media, one of the world's greatest psychics, blah, 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 blah. And I myself have seen the Long Island medium use a lot of these same techniques. So in roulette, you have about a 47% chance of winning. Your hit rate is 47%, or you get a hit about 18 out of 30 times. And that occasional return, although not big, keeps us going. With slot machines, we only get about a 37% hit rate versus 47%. And as low as that is, we still keep pulling the lever. So when counted, what was James Van Praagh, one of the world's greatest psychics, hit rate? 16 to 33%. Less than the chances of gambling. And people still believed it because they wanted to. So if you're talking to a psychic and they claim to be speaking to your loved ones, ask fairly specific questions that only they would know and count their hit and miss rate. If it's below chance, this hit rate is so ridiculously low and people still believe it because they want so bad to have direct communication to their loved ones. Plus, when you're gambling in a casino, they don't use a theatrical presentation and try to wow you with mystical jargon and redirect you and turn your hits into misses. You just play and know you're gambling. Now for some techniques for mediumship. On this one, they rely heavily on the tell them what they want to hear. They love you. They know you love them. They want you to be happy. They are always close by and watching over you, etc., etc. This is what people want, so they believe it. Then you can get to the specifics, which, once again, apply to most people. Grieving people will wear, or at least own, a piece of jewelry from the deceased loved one. They will keep a photograph of the person, generally on their person or at least near their bed. Now, in determining who it is that's deceased, they may throw out a letter like, I'm getting the letter M. M. What is the letter M? Then you just fill in the blanks about what the letter M means to you. Then, of course, there's the cause of death. How do they predict people's cause of death? That's crazy. Well, I'm going to quote Michael Shermer to give an example. I saw the Long Island medium use almost these exact techniques. Van Praagh is determining the cause of death by focusing on either the chest or the head areas, and then exploring whether it was a slow or sudden death. He works his way down through these possibilities as if he were following a computer flowchart and then fills in the blanks. I'm feeling pain in the chest. If he gets a positive nod, he continues. Did he have cancer, please? Because I'm seeing a slow death here. If he gets a nod, he takes the hit. If the subject hesitates at all, he will quickly shift to heart attack. If it is the head, he goes for a stroke or head injury from an automobile accident or a fall. Statistically speaking, there are only half a dozen ways most of us die, and so with just a little probing and the verbal and nonverbal cues of his subject, he can appear to get far more hits than he is really getting. And as a side note, remember, self-deception can be powerful. There are fake psychics who think they have abilities, and if you believe that what you're doing is real psychic abilities, it makes it all the more convincing. And subconsciously, people can use a lot of these techniques and not even realize they're doing it. But the big world major psychics that are frauds, they know what they're doing. Okay, now I'm going to give you some quick tips on beating them. Keep track of the hits and misses. And are some of those hits really misses that got turned into a hit? Don't convey too much expression. Like I mentioned how James Van Praagh will watch the nods and the shakes. Now, when you set up an appointment, do not give them your last name. If you are using a psychic that you want to know if they're real or not, don't use a psychic recommended by a friend. Their friend is probably on that psychic's Facebook. And they can show you who you are. Oh, so-and-so wants a psychic reading. They look at your Facebook, they Google you, they can get all kinds of information. Make sure they know as little about you as possible before you go in there. Then they can't do any hot readings.
Read me.
What I've told you is a very brief idea of how to get going, but before I tell you about $1 million, I'm going to tell you about a book where I learned this stuff. It goes into much greater detail, and it touches on even more techniques that frauds can use. And what I told you only scratches the surface. But the book I wanted to tell you about is called The Full Fact Book of Cold Reading by Ian Rowland. There's a link in the description on where you can get that. Check it out. It will be so worth your time. Since reading this, I've been on the lookout for fake psychics on television, especially the famous ones, and so far I have found 0 real psychics. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that all psychics are fakes. So if you're a real psychic, that brings us to the $1 million. Money, money, money! Money! This is your lucky day, real psychics. You could be a millionaire, and it's easy. All you have to do is prove you have psychic abilities to the James Randi Educational Foundation. In fact, you can get $1 million if you can prove you have any paranormal abilities. Telekinesis, metal bending. In fact, my first episode was on spoon bending, how to spoon bend, so check that out. Anyway, it started in 1964 with $1,000 offered to anyone that could prove that they had real paranormal abilities. It is now $1 million. Over 1,000 people have applied, and so far, no one has been shown to have any real paranormal abilities. So if you do, apply. I'll put a link in the description. Imagine if you were the one to prove scientifically that paranormal abilities exist. Not only would you get $1 million, you would change the world. Thanks for watching, everybody. Be a neighbor and subscribe. Next week, we're going to talk about ghost photographs.
I see death in your future.
Whose?
Yours.
That's
Banana.
stop.
So the most important thing, just as far as the general reading, is just it's a team effort. You know, I'm not always right.
This is my show and I am Scotty. I'm Mr. Newton's neighborhood. Labba-dee-ba-dee-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. Now I gotta check the mirror. Make sure my hat is straight. Money, money, money! Money!